Yeah. All right, guys, let's go to red and everybody behave themselves.
You get hold of Chris, or
Yeah,
I don't like candy.
Chris.
I don't eat candy at all. I don't know. It's weird.
I swear I didn't password correctly every time it is this to me.
I know it's 6, but I think we're having some IT issues. Take your time.
44.
dang it, Chris.
David does not think you're as funny as everybody else does.
Clint, go ahead and try again.
I will as soon as I remember what it is. It was like a laugh, but like a groan from everyone. This has never disrupted a meeting before. I want you all to know. This is the first time, okay? Just back off.
45 minutes.
Is that a joke I'm not aware of? Is that at my expense? That's fine. I'll take it.
We thought they'd be through in 44 minutes.
His
Oh,
computer.
well, I'm typing. Is Michael? How do you spell his last name? And do it very slowly.
Am I telling the password if I do that? SALLAD.
You think I named my password after your IT helper friend?
We are on the record, people.
For the record, I did not name it after your IT guy. I just need to look through the email where he reminded me what my password was. There it is. I got it. It's cool, guys. We're fine.
46.
I'm great. Let's go.
Are we ready? All right. Call the meeting to order. Those that care to, please stand for an opening prayer and pledge of allegiance. Hey, David, would you pray for me?
Yes,
Thank you.
Let us pray. Joy, Father, we just thank you for this day, and thank you for all that you do for us. And we just pray, God, that you keep your hand upon this city and guide and direct us in all that we do. And Lord, we just pray for the mayor tonight as you allow him to lead and guide and direct our meeting. Be with us in all we do and say. In Jesus' name, amen. There you go, man.
There you go. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You're welcome. Every little bit helps. Good evening, folks. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I would like to start things off with citizen participation. Anyone wishing to speak about something that is not on the agenda, please approach the podium. You'll be given 3 minutes to speak. Good evening, ma'am. Would you mind stating your name and your address?
Yes, my name is Betty North. My address is 733 West O'Neill.
Yes, ma'am.
And I want to speak tonight about the 3-minute time limit that members of the public have during the rezoning public hearing before the City Council. I have observed that most of those speaking during the public hearing do not use up all of their 3 minutes. But for some, like the lady from Brookline who spoke a few weeks ago, that have a lot of relevant information, 3 minutes is not long enough. First of all, there is a time limit confusion due to the fact that the time limit for the prior planning and zoning meeting is 5 minutes. Public hearing before the council is more critical than that of the commission because it results in a final vote on the rezoning application. Therefore, 5 minutes should be allocated for each speaker in the City Council hearing. Please contact staff at Nixa, Ozark, and Springfield. I think you will find they allow public hearing speakers 5 minutes time. It is interesting to note that those cities allow more speaking time for their citizens, but their council members are paid considerably less than Republic City Council members are paid. In my way of thinking, if you're paid more, you should listen more. Please consider making the change in procedure I am proposing. And for the same reason last mentioned, Why not change the time limit for citizen participation to 5 minutes also? If these changes cause you to get home an hour later from council meetings, then I will be happy to reverse my request for more city council listening time.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other citizens wishing to speak about a matter not on the agenda? All right, seeing none, we will close citizen participation, move on to the consent agenda. And Ms. North, I want you to know, thank you. Thank you for giving us your thoughts. I have a few preliminary thoughts, but I don't want to dive into that without fully developing it. So I'm going to think about that and get back to you if that's okay. Thank you, ma'am. Moving on to the consent agenda, I welcome any council members to ask questions about items 1, 2, or 3 on the agenda. Seeing no questions, I would entertain a motion and a second for the approval of the consent agenda.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries by a vote of 7-0. Moving on to boards, commissions, and committees scheduled. The Board of Adjustments meeting on November 2nd has been canceled. There is a City Council budget workshop on November 2nd, 2023. City Council on November 7th, 2023. Another City Council session on November 14th. So we're going back-to-back weeks.
Yeah, because basically the one is through the Thanksgiving holiday, and with people being out of town and making sure we have a quorum plus having the staff, we wanted to move it up a week.
Excellent. And then we have a planning and zoning meeting on November 13th, 2023. Moving on to old business and tabled items, this is item number 4 on our agenda. I need a motion and a second for the second reading of Bill 23-45 by title only, please.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries by a vote of 7-0. Madam Clerk.
An ordinance of the City Council approving the annexation of approximately 0.29 acres of property located at 1167 North Oakwood Avenue and adjacent right-of-way.
Thank you, ma'am. Any updates from the city? No updates. Any questions, comments, or discussion from council? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion and a second for the final passage of Bill 23-45.
Motion. Second.
We have a motion and a second. We will now take a roll call vote on our computers.
Brian, is yours working? There it is. Okay.
It is.
Thank you.
He had to log in first.
Oh.
It helps.
Nope. Well,
Ordinance passes by a vote of 7-0. Item number 5 on our agenda, I need a motion and a second for the second reading of Bill 23-46 by title only, please.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries by a vote of 7-0. Madam Clerk.
An ordinance of the City Council amending Title 5, Chapter 515, Section 515.010, applicability, preemption, 515.020, definitions, 515.050, permits required, requirements, 515.090, right-of-way user responsibilities and requirements, and 515.110, inspections, stop work orders, appeals and penalties of the municipal code of the City of Republic, Missouri.
Thank you, ma'am. Any updates from the staff? Who did this one last time? No updates. Very good. Thank you. Any questions, comments, or discussions from council? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion and a second for the final passage of Bill 23-46.
Motion. Second.
We have a motion and a second. We will now take a roll call vote on our computers. Ordinance passes by a vote of 7-0. Moving on to item number 6, I need a motion and a second for the second reading of Bill 23-47 by title only, please.
Motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries by a vote of 7-0. Madam Clerk.
An ordinance of the City Council approving amendment of the zoning code and official map by changing the classification of approximately 28.88 acres located at the 7200 block of West Farm Road 170 from Kirkwood Estates Plan Development District, PDD 22003, to Kirkwood Estates Plan Development District, PDD 23005.
Thank you, ma'am. Any updates from the staff? No updates. Any questions, comments, or discussion from council? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion and a second for the final passage of Bill 23-47, please.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We will now take a roll call vote. Ordinance passes by a vote of 7-0. Item number 7 on our agenda, I need a motion and a second for the second reading of Bill 23-48 by title only, please.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries by a vote of 7-0. Madam Clerk.
An ordinance of the City Council approving execution of a First Amendment to the developer agreement with Republic R3 School District for the construction of a queuing road for the Republic schools located at North Main Street and West State Highway 174.
Thank you, ma'am. Any updates from staff? Thank you, sir. Any questions, comments, or discussion from council? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion and a second for the final passage of Bill 23-48, please.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We will now take a roll call vote. Ordinance passes by a vote of 7-0. Finally, number 8 on our agenda, I need a motion and a second for the second reading of Bill 23-49 by title only, please.
Motion. Second. Third.
Got
Are we
it.
good?
Yep.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Motion carries by a vote of 6-0 to 1. Moving on to Madam Clerk.
An ordinance of the City Council authorizing execution of an amendment to the developer agreement with the Iron Green District LLC and Majors Republic Number 3C LLC for the continued development of the Iron Green District.
Thank you, ma'am. Any updates from staff? Any questions, comments, or discussion from council? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion and a second for the final passage of Bill 23-49, please.
Motion. Second.
We have a motion and a second. We will now take a roll call vote on our computers. Ordinance passes by a vote of 6-0 to 1. Moving on to new business. This is item number 9 on our agenda. I would entertain a motion and a second for the first reading of Bill 23-50 by title only, please.
Motion. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries by a vote of 7-0. Madam Clerk.
An ordinance of the City Council approving the final plat of the Hills of Old Savannah subdivision.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening.
Good evening. Karen Haynes, Planning Manager. The Builds Department is requesting approval of the final plat for the Hills of Old Savannah. The final plat will legally subdivide 20.2 acres of land into 69 lots and also includes the dedication of right-of-way, utility infrastructure, and various easements. The final plat conforms to the preliminary plat for Old Savannah Phase 4 approved back in the summer of 2022. The Builds Department has reviewed and is recommending the approval of the final plat and has determined that it does conform to the original preliminary plat and also the final platting regulations of the city.
Thank you, ma'am. Do we have any questions? Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor. And this is kind of a general question, but it brought it up just from the plating on this one. It has a pretty large common detention area and then a second smaller common area.
Yes.
What is going to happen with that once the subdivision is kind of complete and everybody has moved in? And do we know whose responsibility it is to take care of those areas?
Yes, absolutely. Our subdivision ordinance actually requires a property owner or homeowners association to take care of all common space areas, which often include detention areas.
And so I guess that's what my question is, because you're saying property owner. So once the developer is finished and they've kind of moved on, how do we make sure that that doesn't become a nuisance area?
Sure. Well, it will become the responsibility of the homeowners association after homes are actually constructed and individuals move into those homes. There will be it's called CCNR, so covenants and restrictions of the actual organization of the homeowners association that is on record with Greene County, and that outlines the parameters for the composition of the homeowners association and also their responsibilities.
So is
if
there an
we-
HOA in Savannah, Old Savannah?
There will be once homes are actually constructed. Right now, it'll just be the responsibility of the actual property owner, which is the developer at this point.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, please remember this is a first read, so if you do have other questions, get with staff before. Did you?
I'm not going to do it.
Perfect. Please get with staff before the next meeting. Moving on to item number 10 on the agenda. I just wanted to see if I could get you to moonwalk backwards. I got pretty close. All right. Item number 10 on our agenda. I would entertain a motion and a second for the first reading of Bill 23-51 by title only, please.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries by a vote of 7-0. Madam Clerk.
An ordinance of the City Council authorizing the city administrator to execute a developer agreement with the Republic R3 School District for installation of certain infrastructure at the site of the new Republic Intermediate School.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Andrew Nelson, Assistant City Administrator. This development agreement would authorize or allow us, the Bills Department, to install public infrastructure. And why it's general in this sense, in this agreement, is the school's still working on their design. But if you've been out near the site, they're also working on construction. So they're under a pretty tight timeline. Normally, what you would see before you would be a final set of plans that says, hey, we're doing exactly this. In this instance, we've taken the language of a developer agreement and said we will encompass the things that are in the plans that will be completed. Approximately 5,000 feet of water main includes an extension from our water tower and loop around the building and the site. Kind of prepares the area for future growth and a future expansion of schools. The school is agreeing to pay the city the cost of installation, and we would recoup those periodically throughout the project.
Excellent. Questions from council?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
Andrew, I said this last meeting, but would you state how much money this is saving the school by the city and the school partnering together?
Conservatively, it's $1 million. The real number's probably closer. I mean, and it's a big project. So, just in what we will do will be $1 million project. But their rough estimate for a contracted project was almost 4 times that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Please remember this is a first read, so if you do have questions about this money-saving project,
Yes.
get with staff. You made eye contact. That was your mistake. Moving on to other business, specifically resolutions. This is item number 11 on our agenda. This is 23-R-59, a resolution of the City Council appointing new authorized signers and modifying the accounts payable process for the city's general operating account and bonds proceeds account with Arvest Bank. I need a motion and a second to take up resolution 23-R-59.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Good evening.
Good evening. Bob Ford, Finance Director. One of the things that we're doing in the finance organization is we're looking at processes in the city that we can improve on over the coming year. One of the processes we've looked at is our accounts payable process. We will end up coming back to you in the next 6 to 9 months with a proposal on how to automate that process. But an interim step is to streamline what we currently do. It's all paper-based today. And just to kind of walk you through quickly, when a vendor completes an activity that they need to be paid for, a staff member generates the request for that check to be issued. That information then has been reviewed by that individual staff member. It goes to the department head who reviews that information again. It comes into the finance organization, and the accounts payable clerk reviews everything, including the documentation supporting the request, the GL code that it's being coded to, the contract, if a contract exists in terms of have we met all the milestones, et cetera. Once all that has been reviewed, then the information is passed to me. I go through it again, and so I'm checking the checker that's checking the checker. And then lastly, Mr. Wilson goes through it, and Mr. Russell goes through it also. I'm proposing that we don't need 6 people looking at that AP request, that 4 people will do. So I'm proposing that the final step, that we remove Mr. Wilson and Mr. Russell from that review, and that the review stops with me. And then with that, we would update our signers list for the Arvis bank accounts. It would be Mr. Cameron, Mr. Keeling, Mr. Nelson, and myself.
Is this because you have to chase me down every week and tell me to
I didn't want to
sign
say
the
that, but it'll speed up the process.
I feel personally attacked. I'm teasing. No, it's incredibly burdensome, and I cannot imagine that me looking at that in any way safeguards the city, because I'm just looking at the numbers, and like I don't know that stuff inside and out like the supervisors do. So
Agreed.
I'm sorry. I
So
didn't
we're
mean to cut you off.
requesting that you approve this change to our process.
Do we have questions from council on this issue? Mr. Franklin?
Mr. Mayor, I do. I was just curious. I mean, has this just always been the way that we've done it with having a council member and
Yes.
mayor pro tem and whatnot? Do we know why that was that just at the time a step for oversight, or?
I don't know the answer. We've asked the question to staff. Nobody seems to know what that answer is. But I think it's for safeguard. I mean, I think there was a safety and a security issue on the table at the time. And the thought was this would help in the process. But I would agree with Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure your review is actually giving us any significant oversight in the process. Not to be
No, it's quite all right,
unkind.
because, Mr. Franklin, I'm going to hazard a guess that there have been mayors in the past that really enjoyed coming in and spending 6 hours going through that in fine detail. But I don't know that that's appropriate in the current state of affairs.
I mean, I really see your point in the fact that, we see numbers in that from one standpoint, and then to see that in a check form is a whole nother process to try to figure out.
Right.
I was just curious as to, I mean, my main concern was just in the fact that I didn't want this to be a recommendation from one of our prior financial audits or anything that was a recommendation for us to do. And then I just didn't know how it came about was my concern about it.
That is a reasonable question. Will this affect our audit in any
It will
way?
not.
Okay.
And not affecting the audit, but just the report from the auditor on recommendations of.
Yes. Mr. Mayor,
Please.
so that's one of the things I asked Bob is like, let's check with our auditors. But the history without using names, I mean, I did research it when I first got to Republic, and there is some history in the region of, without using whatever city it could have been, where there was some challenges where funds were being misused to the tune of $300,000 or $400,000. And I believe from there was a lot of additional provisions added into internal controls that a lot of the cities adopted just because we don't want that to happen to us. I think when you consider that we use an independent auditor that this council selects, they have to do an independent audit of our books. So it's not just having the 6 checkers. It's now you have $50,000 a year you're paying somebody else to check that work, which is what we want, and which is what the charter requires. So I think there's a lot of internal controls, but I think what I've heard from our auditor, sometimes our internal controls are so tight, they're some of the tightest that we have, that I think it gives us room for provisions to make these changes. So it does definitely speed up the process, and the larger the community gets in doing business and the things that we do, I think it's important that we get it done. What's all you like about it?
No, I understand that I slow things down. Fridays are a very busy day for me in court.
Well, I think it's not just that. I'm telling you, when you've seen the pile of paper that we've changed the processes in the community, every purchasing card used to have to be gone through. Like, are we really going to nitpick whether we should have bought a certain kind of chlorine for the pool? I mean, like, I don't know what. So, anyway, I think this is a great process improvement, Bob. So, thank you for bringing it.
Any other questions, Mr. Gerth?
Mr. Mayor, I assume obviously, budget-wise, if something was to come across outside of budget, it still goes through the approval process.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that doesn't affect that.
Absolutely.
Yep. Thank you.
But just one more quick question. I think I read in there that, I mean, we can change that back if we need to at any time. Correct? It's
Absolutely.
just a resolution, so, okay. You've answered everything for me, so thank you.
Questions from this end? Seeing none, and as this is a resolution, we can call it immediately for a vote. All those in favor of 23-R-59, please vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Resolution passes by a vote of 7-0. Moving on to reports from staff. Mr. Cameron.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Bob, for that change in the process. One of the things, since you asked, could it be changed back? One of the things that's still available to this council, and anytime you want to go see the check runs or you want to go do your own audit of those, they're available through the finance department that you can go actually check that information yourself. I mean,
it's not exciting.
So, if you want to come to, you're a citizen, you want to just go check the checkers, I'm sure Bob and team can accommodate. So we did already talk about tonight that the council meeting in November will be moved up basically to accommodate the Thanksgiving holiday. So those that are asking, we're not trying to do anything quick or move a budget even faster, but the budget hearing is on November 2nd. Is that correct? Right. So looking forward to you seeing the work that Bob and the team and the staff have put together to pull together the budget. As you recall, you all budgeted and provided the funding for the new Questica software. I think the staff that have worked with this software would all tell you that it's a much bigger hit because they can make adjustments in the budget and see how it impacts the bottom line. So when you're adding a piece of equipment or adding different things, they can see real-time data versus having to wait for it to compute at the very end of the budget process. You will see in the admin report, one of the conversations we had with city staff at the very beginning of the year was to accommodate a COLA first or a 5% cost of living adjustment with the uncertainty of whether we could do the merit increase as well, because it was a 5% increase. As everyone knows, the cost of doing business has gone up. That's the same as also paying your employees. We did initiate, with the help of Lisa and Bob on the work to initiate the merit increase for this year, that we would true up or we would make right. So if someone was hired in March or someone was to receive their increase in March, that they'll be retro paid back to that date. So all their performance reviews have been done. So there's not going to be any type of delay in the employees receiving the additional merit increase. So I appreciate the work that staff did to also help cut costs, the things that we've seen in the budget that have helped us with our interest rates, with the funding that we've had. So it's been a flat year in certain areas, but it's also been a very good year that we were able to take care of this. What else do I got? The Oakwood and Farm Road 174 sale of land was posted and will be closing on 10/27. I did receive a request, I believe, from Ryan asking us what the original intent of that property was, and I thought it was a great question. Was what was the property for? The city purchased that land in 2016 for a future city hall. Obviously, the growth and development of the city has now actually transitioned out towards the MM corridor. One of the things that we're working on is with the Springfield Greene County Libraries and intergovernmental association or intergovernmental agreement to purchase land for the libraries and in-kind portion of the city participating. And we will also look to purchase 5 acres in that area with the proceeds as well for our future city hall. And that's not suggesting that the city is building city hall. That's just suggesting we're looking to buy land and relocate it more into the future corridor. There have been 4 applicants for the Ward 2 position. That closes on October 27th. The mayor and I will meet. I'm there more as those that have went through that process. I'm there to answer questions about the city. I'm not involved in the actual selection of it, but we do sit down on November 3rd, and we'll go through those. And actually, hopefully, we'll bring someone before this council for an appointment at that I guess it'll be that first meeting in November, right, Laura?
Yeah, the 7th.
And so I also want to draw your attention to the filing deadline for the city council seats that will take place, I believe. It starts on December 5th at 8 a.m. and runs through December 22nd at 4:30. I want to make it very clear for those. I mean, we're going to put out, I think we're going to actually add this to either a mailer or in some way just to make sure that everyone understands the filing deadline. The Secretary of State did provide that deadline was, I believe, to close on December 26th, where routinely it's ended in January. Our offices are not even open on the 26th or 25th. It's Christmas. So I want to make it abundantly clear that to file for those positions, the deadline, or that our offices are open till the 22nd. Please make sure if you know someone that's running or wanting to file, that deadline will be the 22nd, or not that it won't be, the deadline's not the 22nd, but our offices are not even open when the deadline closes. So just to be clear, we will make a very clear announcement of that. It'll be on our windows and every sign that we can, because if someone shows up on the 26th, there'll be no one there. So just to make sure I'm clear on that, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. And so one of the projects that I'm really excited about that's taking place right now is this water tower over there on Hines Street, because either the mayor or his wife have reminded me that it's moldy several times.
We drive by it every day. It's the middle school.
The first lady is always encouraged by the tower not being painted. So they have taken off the cell tower coverage. So if you're seeing a delay in some of your cell phone coverage, it's because AT&T has some of their equipment has had their equipment on our tower. They put up, has delayed some of their work, but I'm looking forward to seeing that tower repainted with where it looks and matches the rest of the community. I do want to commend the staff for getting that project done. When we started this effort, there was no funding for those projects. So utilizing some of the ARPA dollars, the allocation the city got, one of the key projects they did was cleaning up those towers. And so I appreciate the work that was taking place there. I will say this, I love the question about the drainage question tonight about what happens in the future, because I think that's an important question. A lot of times the city is actually burdened with that issue because the PO or HOA, there is not one established, and the homeowner that took over the property leaves, it doesn't get taken over, and it becomes a nuisance property. So I appreciate the oversight and the accountability as to how that's taken care of. I thought it was a great question. Thank you for the school district for the partnership. I said it last time, to save somewhere around $1.5 million. I don't remember what the queuing lane, but it was substantially more than that. I think the estimate was around $2 million, and we did it for $500,000. So again, there are ribbon cuttings for queuing lanes, but a water line is probably not going to draw as much of attention. But just to know that the taxpayers' dollars being stretched as far as it can, and do our best to make sure we're communicating that we're considering and that we're working together to save money for our citizens is very important, and I need to do a better job of communicating it. And also great job on Pumpkin Days.
Yeah.
Jennifer, to you, the staff. When I was driving down from my house and I see this whole setup, and I'm like, okay, what hit me was the day after. I'm like, someone has to set that up and someone has to take that down when all the people have left. And usually it's early in the morning, usually it's on the weekend, signs are still left. But I love the leadership that you all use in the Parks Department and all the staff that were out there to support that effort, but also the Pumpkin Days Committee that was willing to work, the Kiwanis that came together to make this a one weekend event on one campus is incredible. And what it means for our community to work together is awesome to see. So I just want to thank you for that. I think that's pretty much, we have a huddle on 11/2. Those that are new that do not know what the huddle is, that's where we bring all the city staff together. You're more than welcome to attend. It's at 8:30. And lastly, Widening Highway on November 6th. Is that right, Andrew? He and I will be going to Jefferson City. It's in your admin report. I would encourage you, those citizens, that our admin reports are online. You can read them. There's been an ongoing discussion about widening the Highway. The project cost has escalated by $6 million. The state has asked us to cover the remaining $6 million for a state highway improvement, and so we're not agreeable to that, where it may mean that we withdraw from the project. Again, all this information is outlined in the admin report if you'd like to read it. But with that, that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Comments from council? Mr. Franklin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Echo what David said about Pumpkin Days. Every year, between being bigger and more impressive and then going by a couple days later and then everything's gone, it's just like you went back up out of the rabbit hole or whatnot. But it's really great time out there. A lot of great conversations. one of the great conversations I got to have out there this year was with the Rooting Republic group. And hands down, the passion and all the volunteers, everything they're putting into that, listening to everything that they're doing, that is incredible. And I was just blown away. I really like to hear what they're doing, what they've got going on. They were out here and they redid rocks in the parking lot. So, I mean, what they're doing is really great. And I've really appreciated getting to know them and seeing what they're doing. So, brag on Parks a little bit this time. But other than that, thanks for all the hard work that went into the packet as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Franklin. Any other council members? All right, seeing none, and as we still have a couple more minutes before the over-under is done. So last night, I got to play catch with Travis Edwards, and I don't know who's been watching this on Facebook, but one of our school board members is playing catch with people every single night, and it was awesome that I got to connect with them, but that's not what I want to talk about. I was down at Miller Park, and 3 kids came up. They were riding bikes, they had long hair, hats on backwards, and they came up while we were playing catch. And one of them, Gavin Gorman, walked up and said, "Excuse me, sir, are you the mayor?" Long hair, 15, 16, 17-year-old kid. But he said, "Excuse me, sir, are you the mayor?" And I was like, well, this could go any way. But I have to tell you here tonight and on anybody listening that Gavin Gorman was a complete gentleman. Absolutely exactly the way that I would want my kids to approach an adult. Came up confidently with his shoulders back, head up, and he said, "Excuse me, sir, are you the mayor?" "Yes." He's like, I would like to talk to you about how to make a skate park. And he went on to talk to me about a skate park, and this young man was passionate about this. I have no idea if it's workable or not, but what I am going to do is, number one, compliment Gavin's parents. You did it right. He came up right, he talked to me, he expressed his idea, and I said, I have no idea. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to walk back to my truck, I'm going to get my card, and you're going to email me. This morning at 8:35 a.m., I have an email in my inbox from Gavin saying, "Sir, it was nice meeting you. I would really like to know more about how to do this. Is there a way that you could teach me about this?" And I responded and said, again, I have no idea how we're going to go about doing this, but what I am going to do is tonight go to City Council, brag on you, and number 2, I'm going to find out what the next steps are. I don't know if it's doable, but it is something that we need to talk about. So, you know, Clint and I also has recently spoken at the middle school. He spoke to my kids' public speaking class.
Did I?
Yeah, the 6th grade.
Was he that was the
Yeah,
worst
I know. It was like
by far the worst.
I overheard you saying there's a difference between
So
6th and
much
7th grade.
different.
They are talkers,
It was
aren't they?
unreal.
So anyway, that's the response we get, right, when we talk about kids, and as we should. I've got 2 boys. But when you see things in the community like that, people caring about the community, when you see the kids at the middle school sitting there listening to grown-ups that they don't know, it gives you some hope. So I just wanted to say thank you for allowing us to do that, and we're going to need to talk about skate parks, I guess. The other thing I wanted to talk about, we're still good on the over-under, right?
We're good.
All right. Megan, would you mind looking into Robert's Rules of Procedure and and just draft a memo for me about the 3 minutes versus 5 minutes versus whatever the options are?
Yes.
I'd like to know what our options are. The other thing I'd like to know about, and I don't know if this is, ma'am, just so you know, City Council, and this is public information, we get paid $200 a month to do what we do. I don't know how much the city of Springfield makes, but I'd also like to know that. Because if we're making significantly more, I'd like to address that issue.
They don't make anything at all.
You know, very good. Could you?
I believe that's correct, but I'll look into it.
That's correct.
Thank you. I totally understand your position. I'd like to know that so that we can talk about how we go forward.
I'll confirm.
And we'll get back to you next meeting. And with that, if no one else has anything else.